Okay, welcome everyone. Welcome to this session on effective ship liaison systems. My name is Sigurd Alle. I'm Norwegian. I volunteer in the STI as a race chairman. I used to sail as a captain on a small Norwegian Archer vessel, and my meeting with all the liaison officers over the years I remember it as a very important link between the cities and the crews and the vessels. So I'm really excited to hear. So today we have Ian Anderson and Veselin Atanasov to share their experience with us. So welcome. We will start with Ian. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Afternoon, everybody. Do you think I need the microphone, or can you hear me okay? Yeah, it's a lot better for me. Looking at my presentation today, as I've already said, introductions-wise, we're looking at effective ship liaison and the systems that we incorporated live. How that's going to be broken down is, what I'm going to do is show a couple of videos that we had produced. One before the event on the lead up in our marketing, and then one after the event. Very short, and it was done by one of the local film producers. It was just something that we acquired. And then we'll go and have a look at the presentation. But I'd like some interaction from yourselves, really. Rather than me just standing up here and talking to you, I'd rather have a little bit of interaction. So when we come to the last slide, all I've done is done some bullet points. I can go through what we did, but I'm guessing there's a lot of experience in this room, and it's maybe about sharing it with everybody rather than just you find out what we did. So, as I say, we'll stick the video on. If I get to it. So as you can see, very theatrical, and that was in our lead up to the event itself. And then this is the video that was produced from the event. very lucky with the weather. It's not like Northumberland, it's usually raining. So I think that gives you a feel for how our event went. We were lucky, as I say, with the weather, and you could see that the crowd are having a good time, and that's always, look at all the smiling faces. So the aim of this session, from my perspective, just to provide you an overview of the liaison system implemented at the North Sea Tall Ships Regatta there in Blythe. And the objectives that I'm looking at is the recruitment methodology, the data management systems, the volunteer training education, the strategic management and the selection process, and the volunteer structure and management. And just to give you an idea of where we were at, we had 650 applications. These came through social media, they came through our website, and they filled out a full application form. Of that, we had 240 who followed up that application and attended a half-day induction session. This was in 3 sessions. 2 were on a weekend and 1 was during the weekday. Sorry, the other way around. 2 were during the week and 1 was on a weekend, to make sure that everybody who wanted to take part had the opportunity to do that. Overall, we then also had 40 Level 2 awards in customer services and tourism, and this was a 3-day course, breaking down into the first part was customer services, which was 1 day, followed by a 2-day course in tourism, where they actually went out for half a day with one of the blue badge leads, one of our tourism officers, and they showed them around the key sites around Blythe, so that when it came to the event, they actually had first-hand knowledge of the local area. We had also 26 people. We had 100 actually request the course, but 26 followed through and actually got the Level 2 award in volunteering. So these are both nationally recognised qualifications. Overall, we employed 140 volunteers, and we'll look at them in a little bit more detail about the posts and the roles. And we had 6 roles that we delivered, not just by myself, but we'll see the structure and how that was broken down. And then we also followed up with an evaluation through SurveyMonkey, and we had a good response. Of the 104, we had 89 responded and filled out, and 99% of them said they would actually volunteer again for the local authority in the port. So it was really good. So our liaison system, and this is one of the questions we're asked quite a lot. So looking at ships liaison, so these are based on the ships themselves, providing that vital link, looking at providing information, timings, programs, sports and social events. Again, not just about the ships and what the captain needs, it was about the crews and the trainees. Provide important harbour information, also linked to our TLOs. We had some technical liaison officers, and they're on the next slide. I'll cover them then. And then it was also about encouraging the crews and the trainees to participate in the activities that we'd put on, and actually have the SLOs actually actively taking part in that as well as part of the crew, because that's the way we saw it, is that they were on the ship, were working for 4 days, they stayed with the same ship throughout, and we just viewed them as being part of that crew. We also had team leaders. There was 12 of them. Now, they were associated with the quaysides. They were also associated with the different roles. So they had, as I said, team leaders for each role, and also broken down, we had 6 working along the quayside. Now, the main thing for them was to disseminate information on a daily basis. Rather than me dragging 140 people to a morning brief, what we had a brief with the team leaders on a morning, and then they would go then and brief up their teams. Also, as part of that, they would look at the coordination of the daily schedules. Some ships were doing corporate hospitality. Fortunately, we weren't doing that many day sails. There was only one on the last day, so there wasn't any movement with the ships, other on the Monday, remember rightly.
How many ships were obliged? Needed one if they got one LO for each ship?
Right, we didn't. What we looked at, or what I looked at, something like the DAR, we had 3 LOs associated with it. And again, it comes back to being able to provide, if somebody goes off sick, if somebody doesn't turn up, if somebody needs to get away for something. And we had requests on the lead up that I remember one group of people were actually in a choir rock group, and they were performing on the main stage one afternoon. So we had the system where we could allow people, or the team leader would coordinate releasing people. And also from our perspective, it was making sure that the captains saw the same faces each day and they knew who they were. I mean, you'll see in a minute our coordination with our colour schemes as well. So we had key roles, looking at communication process, provide these links to the TLOs, the technical liaison officers, and then providing guidance and technical support. So all of the team leaders who worked on the quayside with the ships all had some maritime experience. So they were either sailors themselves, or had been sailing, or had done the job before. For those that have been around a while, Newcastle's held the event a few times now, and they'd actually worked at Newcastle. We had people from Hartlepool, again in 2010. So it was, again, we had some good experience. Going back to what you were saying about numbers, if we had some of the larger ships that had more than one LO, I would try and marry them off with somebody who hadn't got experience. So they're actually learning on the job, thinking about legacy, that if, again, they wanted to volunteer in the future, that they already have that experience, but are not necessarily left alone while we're running this event. So they always had somebody that they could actually speak to. The technical liaison officers, something not everybody does. We were fortunate that part of our recruitment system is that we asked for people with experience, and we asked them to list what experience they had. We were lucky that we had some maritime engineers, and we had 7 of them. So we were very fortunate, and we liaised and worked a partnership with Clive Gray, and he's the chief executive from Blythe's Tall Ship Project. Williams 2 it's called now, Class B. Baltic Trader that they've rescued and they're refurbishing at the moment. He's got a workshop, tools, lathes, things like that. So he was geared up for any small jobs that they could entail. So they were based with him, and he organised a rota system with them. And they were on call. They were on VHF as well as just being on normal airwaves radio and phone, which came into it quite a lot. The other roles that we had there, Event team assistants, so these were working with the event teams. So we had 4 sites, event sites on the land, and they had elected to join the event teams. So we had five people with each. Town hosts, these are people who did the 3-day tourism course, customer services. So these were giving out information, leaflets, and we had 40 originally and 34 who actually took part during the event. And the last one we had, which was a change in roles, because we felt that we needed to support our sponsors. They were funding quite a bit of this event, so we actually had some sponsor hosts. But as it got closer to the event, we actually found that it was supporting the sponsors could also support our hospitality. So they actually changed from just working in one area to working with our corporate hospitality. We had a VIP area. We had corporate hospitality based on the land, as well as our ship-based hospitality. And they worked with the teams that were working in hospitality. So we had them 6 roles. And in total, as I say, we had 140 LOs. So this is roughly how it worked out, looking at this schematic. You can see there that we branched off the tourism side, so we had 3 dedicated tourism officers, and they would work with the tourist hosts themselves. The town host giving out information. We had the team leaders. Then you can see also that we've got a colour change in T-shirts and our polo shirts to dictate which one was doing what. Also, we look for them bright colours. Looking at Liaison, we're looking at yellow. Town hosts, they were in blue, but also for some of them, they had backpacks with flags on. So anybody in the crowd, and we publicised this on the run up to the event through our media teams, that people who were lost or wanted information just had to spot people in a blue polo shirt with the backpack, and they could be pointed in the right direction. We also, as I say, had Clive from Blythe Tall Ship, and he was overseeing the technical liaison side. Fortunately enough, we didn't have to use them. We didn't have to fix anything, but I think it was just, again, good practice. And then finally, over the other side, we had the events managers. We had 4 of them for the 4 event teams, and they have the event team assistants. And we've got a lot of good reports back, a lot of written commendations for our event team assistants. The event team managers were really happy with them, as were everybody who dealt with any of the volunteers. And that's something to bear in mind. As I say, they are all volunteers. And we did ask them to volunteer for the full 4 days, rather than doing a rota system and trying to split shifts. It was long days, but in the run-up to it, when they volunteered, we made it very clear on the application form that they were volunteering for 4 days, rather than just individual days. So this is the considerations that we had. And this is most of the things. As you can see, it wasn't all about the ships, but this is more from my perspective of managing volunteers. And these were the hard bits. And I think it's probably picking that second one up on the left-hand side. Feeding and refreshments. That's a priority for all volunteers. First thing they always ask is, where do I get a cup of tea and am I getting fed? And if you can put that in place first, you have happy people throughout the weekend. We were fortunate that we had a volunteer area. It was part of the refreshment area, and that was for the first couple of days, and then we moved it into the same building as me for the remainder of the time, just so they could actually get away and have a sit down somewhere quiet when they needed to. Our recruitment methods, I've mentioned already. Social media played a big part in this. Word of mouth. And then we actually funneled them to our website. And on there was a full application form. Initially, we asked for references. But we actually noticed from some of the statistics that people were getting to the reference part and then not completing the application form. So what we did was changed it slightly. We asked them to fill the application form and then sent them an automated email asking them then for references. And this really came under, and I'll talk about it in a little bit time. Data collection was really important. As you can appreciate, having 640 applications, and there was only me. I had no team, it was just me to do the work. So it was making sure that we looked at a good Excel spreadsheet, generated a database, and from there updated the database and backed it up on a regular basis. And keeping on top of it was probably one of the hardest things that I had to do in the run-up. I was employed from the December, so I had 9 months, well, less than 9 months. It was 8 months to actually recruit, train, and manage the 140. But working through the 640, and that was some of the selection process that I decided at the beginning that people would deselect themselves for the main. And it was to do with filling the application incorrectly, providing references, attending the half-day training session. And this was a stipulation by the local authority, is that they made it very clear in the first instance that because we weren't using a third-party volunteering service, that we had to go through the full recruitment process of the local authority as if they were becoming a member of the council, staff, which added more time, obviously more liaison with personnel, also looking at DBS checks. So for the guys who were working on the ships, anybody who would potentially work with people who were below 18-year-olds, everybody had to have a DBS check. So, and we did, I mean, I'll be honest, we had, out of the people that we put forward for DBS checks, we had 2 that came back and said no. So they deselected themselves. Following the half-day training session, we had one gentleman, and this is really about individual suitability. We had one gentleman who we had to decline the offer to, more so because of his personality and his attitude towards other people. He was quite aggressive and wouldn't give his information. And we thought at that point he wasn't suitable. And it's how do you say that to somebody? Fortunately enough, he didn't provide his references. And maybe that's why.
Yep.
Is that nobody would give him a reference, or if they did, then they'll probably say he wasn't suitable. But I think that's something to bear in mind when you're looking at the recruitment process. I also looked at the communication systems. I went for electronic, and it was purely about time, rather than actually having letters sent out to people via the normal post. Everybody had to provide an email address, and all communication went through their email address. And it was up to them to respond by set times. So again, this was part of our selection, that I usually give people at least a month to respond to their email. So even if they're out the country, most people can pick up their emails at some point. And we had to look at, everybody had to attend the half-day session as well. So again, them 240 who attended over them three days. Training and education. We looked at legacy, and that's maybe something that yourselves have done. Is that it's not just about the event there and then. We have now got 140 people who can now volunteer for any event that the local authority is taking on. So, and again, it's looking at tall ships. You know, we've got Sunderland in 2018. It's only 25, 30 miles down the coast. So probably the majority of people who volunteered here would then go to Sunderland. Potentially if Newcastle ever does it again, or Hartlepool, you know, we've got opportunities there for people. And as I said, when we did our evaluation, which is last on the list, 98 or 99% said they would volunteer again for this type of event. Health and safety. This was really important. We looked at, besides the event management, looking at health and safety, risk management, we were also looking at everything to do with risk management. People working on the ships, people working in hospitality, working late. Some of the hospitality hosts, they were working up till 10 o'clock at night. We needed a system that allowed people to book in and book out. So part of our volunteers, the team leaders for the volunteer centre, we had 2 working. They ran a book in, book out system. So every morning, everybody had to book in. At the same time, they picked up a radio if they were issued one. At the end of the end of their day, because some of the ships, could cut them away early, or with the hospitality host, they were working late. So we had to have a system to ensure that everybody was safe, especially having over 4 sites, which was spread probably across, it was probably about a mile from South Beach right through to the town centre. And if they were down at the South Beach and didn't want to come back, because we did have this, that we organised a system through the team leader that they would just ring them and say, I've finished my duty, I'm now getting the bus home, because they lived, down in that area. So that was really key. Duty times, this again was negotiation. This is between the team leaders and them and the ships, or the tourism officers, or Clive, and he produced a rota for the technical liaison. Same as the event side of things, they did their own. Feeding and refreshments, as I say, it's a big one for volunteers, knowing that they're going to get fed and they know that they can get a cup of tea. Really important. Policies and procedures, I put on there because, as I've said, we had to work within the policies of the local authority. These were being recruited as staff members would be. So I had to follow the policies. So meeting with the Director of Human Resources, ensuring that we followed it to the letter, and also to cover ourselves insurance-wise, that we followed it and there was no comebacks. Clothing, again, it was, as you've already seen, we had different colours for different jobs. So again, making sure that you had the right size clothing for people. It wasn't just one size fits all. We actually asked people, went out and got the sizes, and they told us what they wanted. Transport. I think this morning, you heard, if you were at the brief this morning, that we had crowds up to 500,000 over the 4 days. So we had a full transport system because we had to bus people in, the public. And as part of that, we also organised transport for all the volunteers. And this came from the local areas. So it allowed people to drive in if they wanted to, into a local town, get picked up in the centre of town by one of our minibuses, which would bring them right into the heart of Blyth. And again, we'd organise a system for the night time, when the majority had finished work, that there was a bus system to get them home. We also provide accommodation for those that wanted it, and this again was provided a bus service too. I think organisation, I put organisation values. Working for the local authority is not necessarily the easiest thing to do. In sometimes, I don't know what people's experience of this is, but when you're working for a local authority, they have certain ways of doing it, and you've got to follow what they say. And you've got to dot all the I's and cross all of the T's when it comes to your paperwork and recruitment. We also had a volunteer handbook. Now, I know not everybody does this, but we decided that any information that was going to be sent out prior to the event would actually produce a handbook for them. So on the day, at the first initial brief, when they came in, we actually met them and had a brief with everybody. We provide them with a handbook with all of the information about the event, the sites, the programme, and also in the back of that, we put a few extra note pages, so if they needed to take notes about anything, then they could do that and had something and provide them with a pen and that. Mentioned suitability, we had a couple of people who deselected themselves. And then finally, as I've said already, I did use SurveyMonkey, and it was just a brief survey, asking their experience, and the main question about would they like to do it again. So that's just the accredited training that I mentioned. So it's nationally recognised level 2s through the college and through adult ed. We were fortunate again working with the local authority that they have an adult education department, and they were very kind and said that any of the training that will be done for free. So people got free qualifications, and again it works on legacy, that people now can go away and volunteer for other events, and potentially if there's a limited amount of volunteer places, now all of our guys have better chance of actually getting chosen. And that's all of them were. That was the first day, so we got them all together. We got our picture, so you can see how many it was. And management wise, I was very fortunate that I had a deputy manager, Gary, an ex-policeman, and he was very organised and helped a lot. And that's really, I would, you know, if you're looking at doing your own event in the future, having a good deputy manager, it does make a huge difference, as well as a tiered system. It worked really well for us. So, any questions? I seem to have done a lot of talking there. Is there any questions that people?
No questions, but I have a comment.
Yeah.
Team leader was new for me. I've done about 50 races. I've done race controller. I've done safety inspector. Blah
Yes.
blah blah.
Yeah.
Man, what we did in Gothenburg, I was sailing by and you taking part, but I was advisor to the population on the technical support.
Okay, yeah.
Because what happens normally when you came in a yacht or a big ship, that's you. Oh, good. There's a young, beautiful 20 years lady standing there full of program. Oh, hello. I want to have generators. I want my house to be inspected. Do I think I was smart? I want to generate the problem. What should I do? So we organized once a technical officer for 4 ships, generally speaking.
Yeah.
So they could, and he had all the contact with the technical facilities in the area. I mean, but that helped the young 20-year lady or boy very much because well, now this with team leader also. I remember. I mean, the 140 coming to a meeting every morning. That's a good new idea.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Ah, you're welcome. I mean, on that, because I mentioned at the beginning, our team leaders had some maritime experience already. They'd already been LOs at previous events, and that's why they were chosen. And because of that, we organised that they came in early. The event itself didn't start till Friday, and that was on the Friday. But the team leaders came in on the Wednesday afternoon, so we were allowed in time to give them a brief, to tell them what was happening. We had ships coming early, or not early, but it was planned that everything was in place from the Wednesday. So the Wednesday tea time. So any ships that arrived, we had the generators, we had water, we had everything, if they needed any fuel, we had it all in place. Plus the team leaders would actually, because there was 2 per quayside, they could then manage them ships as they came in. So it worked out really well. So straight away, as soon as the ship came in, they had somebody in a yellow polo shirt who said, "Hi, I'm so-and-so, I'm the team leader, and I'll be with you for the next week. Is there anything you need? Can we hook you up to the generator? Do you need water? We'll plan it for tonight." And that's something else that we had some, not major issues, but we had to come up with some solutions. We weren't allowed to draw on the water during the day. The water system was associated with all the local residential houses. So if we drew on water during the day, it took the water from the houses. So they couldn't wash up, they couldn't get a shower. So what we did every night, so after 10:30 at night, we then got the standpipes out, crossed the roads that we'd cordoned off, and then allowed them to actually fill up with water. We organised the refuse. That was on a morning, early doors, before the public got there. So again, it was like 6 o'clock in the morning, and they'd come around every morning and take the refuse away. Any grey, black, then that came through the port. Martin Willis, the harbour master, was fantastic. and the Port of Blythe. So they actually organised all of that. All the LOs were doing was passing the information on and relaying it.
Were ships charged for the removal of grey Blackwater?
No, not everything.
Part of the,
yeah, it was all part of it.
Yep.
No, they didn't get charged.
No, it was all free.
Yep.
And
It
the
was
Port
support
of,
in kind.
yeah, it was.
Okay. Yep.
And just to be aware, the Port of Blythe is tall ships friendly, so again, wouldn't be charged in the future. So any tall ships want to go there.
Okay. Thank you very much. But I see in my papers that I should have presented you to the spectators. Can you just give a little background?
Yeah.
Prior to this summer.
Yes, of course. I'm from, well, background-wise, where do I start? Became involved tall ships 2010. I worked as the deputy event manager down in Victoria Deepwater, Greenwich, a couple of years ago, and then became the CLO for this event. My background, I used to be a manager of a marketing company for education. I've worked in education on and off now for the past 30 years. Do a lot of teaching, still do a lot of teaching. I think management-wise, I used to work for local authority, so I knew a little bit about how it worked and how they operate and what I needed to do. I've also got a military background, so organisational-wise, it was quite simple and straightforward. So that's probably enough.
Very good.
Well, thank you very much.
So just before we go to the next speaker, we just hand out these. So this is the evaluation. So before
Just
you
need pressing and let's go.
take time to give Thank you. Okay, thank you. I see you are taking the podium.
Yes.
I will not do the mistake again. So,
Right.
thank you. Our next speaker is Veselin. He was the Chief Liaison Officer for the SCF Black Sea Tall Ships Regatta this year. And he has also a history as a liaison officer in 14.
Yes.
So, and your civil life, I will let you tell more about that yourself. And thank you.
Right, hi everyone. Good afternoon. As I was presented, I was Chief Liaison Officer at the Black Sea Tall Ship Regatta. My background has nothing to do with tall ships. I am a boring paper merchant in my standard life. I just sell paper, and this was totally new for me. And today I'll try to give you some ideas when you organize your future events, how to eventually organize your liaison officers. It is a little bit not that hard, but it is a challenge. There will be a few things I would say that Ian already spoke about, so this is normal because we did the same job at two different regattas. But well, if you would excuse me about that. Right, the first thing I would like to talk about is the recruitment of the liaison officers. The first thing we focus on is, of course, media, local media and online media. Local media, if you still have local newspapers printed out, because this is something rarely that is done recently. The next thing is social media, Facebook. Ian said that this is the most powerful thing you could have. We were lucky. We actually set up a Facebook group back in 2014, a liaison officer group, which is still up and running. And this is a way to send a message very easy, and the response is immediate there. So this is something definitely you should have. The next thing is a regatta website. Again, a thing that you should definitely have in place, and it should be updated on a regular basis. On the regatta website, you will put all the events, the program, the venues, and if that is all the participating ships, you should have that in place. So as many people as they want, they will go on the website and see it. The next thing is the recruitment of the volunteers. Ian spoke about that, and I'll probably give you another few ideas. First, I would say about the CLO. Of course, we're very important, aren't we, Ian? Again, this person should not come from a similar background like me. I'm not a seafarer, I'm a paper merchant. But this person should have very good managing skills. That is important thing. Why? The volunteers, although we had volunteers from previous regattas, they come from all different areas of life. They do so many different jobs, and you have to organize them in those 4 to 5 days and to have very good communication with them. So the CLO you will recruit, it is an important person for the success of the event. The recruitment of the liaison officers. One thing we wanted to emphasize to them and tell them how important it is. The event, the regatta for your city is very important. City like Varna, this was an utter success, and it was brilliant for us. It changed the city just overnight, and you have to somehow employ to the volunteers that they will take a part in something very special for your city, and they should be responsible enough, because volunteer means I go there, I don't get paid, but it's not just this. They should understand that they will be taking part and they will facilitate to this event, which should be a success for your city. Again, they all come from all sorts of different areas in life. You have to, of course, see what jobs they do, because it might be useful. Like Ian said, his deputy manager was an ex-policeman, a person again with strict managing skills probably and good organizational skills. So if you have tour guides that will help you, if you just have to exploit what you can get from your volunteers. We talked about the numbers, how many people you should recruit. We standardly, for Class A ships, we have 1-2 people. For Class B, 1 or 2. For Class C and D, 1 person per few boats. It's not the rough number to give you an idea how many people you would need. But then again, you would need certain people to take care of other things. Like, most important thing for us was an acting shipping agent to recruit as a liaison officer. This person will take care of all the formalities with the administration, with the border police. You need such guy who would help all the ships get all the documents filled out correctly and not to have any problems with the administration. And recruit more than you need. It is statistically proven that about 20-25% would not turn up by the day the regatta comes, and we've experienced that from the 3 regattas we had held in Varna. So if you need about 100 people, you should have at least 130, and just to make sure you will have enough people when the time comes. The training we did was, we did some introduction meetings. We did about 3 introduction meetings about 6 months prior of the regatta. Our main goals were, again, to employ to the liaison officers what role they will take part in the regatta. Their part would be to connect the crews with your city. The crews should feel well looked after. They should be welcomed. They should feel alright that if they need any information about your city, they will need to provide it. And the most important is the liaison officers should make sure the crews would like to come back again to your city. This is very important. I think it was for us. On those introduction meetings, you will see how many people would turn up, because the first meetings could be a little boring for the people, because you would explain the event in general, you'll give them basic information about the event, and some of the people might be a little bit bored, but you will see that there are people who would come to every meeting. So those are the people you could actually count on. And of course, if you have liaison officers from previous regattas like we had, and to have a core of those people and to build the team around them, this is something very special. But on those meetings, again, you will find the right people for you. And again, the information, general information, how the regatta would be organized, the opening ceremony, the crew parade, what's what. Some of the people, they wouldn't know what to expect. So that's what we gave to those meetings. Then, about 2 months prior of the regatta, we started the actual training. From my point of view, there is no point to start and educate them earlier, because they have their own lives. If you start to train them 4 or 5 months before the regatta, they will forget everything you taught them. This is something you should really bear in mind, that you have to start the training a little bit close to the regatta. Before the meetings, about again 2 months before the regatta, the chief liaison officer should meet key persons that would be involved with the regatta, like the port manager or the harbor master, to meet the manager who would take care of the waste. The port manager will provide information about the water supply, the electricity, and your CLO should meet those people to make sure the basic things are put in place before the ships arrive. On those 2 months, on that meeting, the actual training, the program is now confirmed, and it can be related to the liaison officers. All the dates, all the events, all the venues should be explained to your officers. Again, structure, liaison officer structure discussion with them. Ian spoke about that. And another important thing is to allocate the liaison officers to all the vessels and events as soon as you can. So you can do the teams as soon as possible, and they can the teams can start interacting with each other and get to know well each other and work more properly. And then the last 3 meetings, this is probably in the last month before the event, you will discuss with the liaison officers the schedule, all the events, by hours, by days. You will discuss the port plan, where all the facilities are: rescue teams, first aid facility, showers, stage, prize giving ceremony, all those sports venues you would discuss with them. Then one thing, again important for us, was to post everything online on the regatta website. Everyone now has a smartphone. If the liaison officers forget something for today, they can quickly go on your website via their mobiles and just scroll down, see what's on today. You should have, again, the social media on your regatta website updated on a regular basis. On those meetings, what we did is, when we assigned the teams for each ship, we've actually separated them per each ship, and they've started to build their own relationship between them. So this helped for them to build their team prior of the regatta, not at the days of the regatta. One could be a silly thing, the use of VHF, of a radio, you'll be surprised how many people never used radios in their life. So take a couple of VHFs at one of your trainings. Make sure everyone knows how to use ones. And after the boring training, the actual event comes, which is the best part of everything. Communication, very important. You have 100 and plus people to communicate with. This is very important to set up a system that would serve you well. Mobile phones. You would give to each team leader a mobile phone, a VHF, and list of phone numbers. We've set up a list of phone numbers that were actually put in the mobile phone address books, so everyone would know who to call and how to call it. Another idea which we had on the back of our badges, we had important numbers on the back of it, just in case anything happens. Everyone actually can ring me or ring anybody else, our rescue team or first aid team. 2-3 days prior of the regatta, you need to get 4, 5, 6 volunteers to set up your liaison office in place, to put the computers in. I don't know how it was for you, but that's what we actually were at the passenger terminal of Port of Varna, and we were in the hall. We actually had to build our office there, and it was very nice because we had immediate access to all the ships there. So you need to build your office, and on the first day before the regatta, you should have everyone in, because you could have ships coming early, which is normal, and that's why everyone should be there. On that day, I've asked every one of the liaison officers to go and see for themselves the whole area, the whole port area, where the first aid facility is, where the rescue team is, where the showers, where is the coach area, where all the important facilities are placed. And I wanted them to know their position by heart, to know them, not to look for them. I just wanted them to know it very well. Daily meetings. We were not 140 people in Varna, we were about 60, so we held in the passenger terminal hall, which we had enough place there, of course. And we normally ask them to come at 7:30, and by 8 o'clock everybody would turn up after having their coffee, cigarettes, whatever. At 8 o'clock we would start our daily meetings, and we would discuss only today's tasks. Not tomorrow's, not the day after, just today, the most important things. And the daily meetings for us proved to be very, very important. I had a whiteboard, where everyone could actually write what tasks they have, any problems they've seen. And another thing, it proved for the last few regattas, we had a checklist. On the first day of the regatta, I would not go in details about it. I'll just run through it quickly. On the first day, all the liaison officers are still in a hustle, a little bit of a panic what they are supposed to do, and because the ships arrive. What we did, it was a little checklist with things they would ask a captain or the officers when they come aboard with the border police, just to have that in mind and ask the captain if they need any assistance, like signing on of crew passengers, again waste, fresh water, fuel provisions, medical assistance, any other assistance, whatever. But with this checklist, it was less stressful for the liaison officers. What should I ask? Who to ask? The event forms, that is another important thing. The event forms with all the sports events and cultural events you would have, that needs to be set up as quickly as possible, because you need to know how many people will attend those events, and you need the forms filled. give general information about the city, remind the waste that should be taken early in the morning because you don't want somebody to take the waste out at 8 o'clock when all the visitors would arrive. And one of the last things I strongly advise you to do, that liaison officers are people too. Help and try to organize a couple of ships to take the liaison officers on board for the parade of sail. The liaison officers felt really appreciated. They really liked this experience because they were taken on board for the parade of sail, and everybody had a very good time. And we were very lucky to have good weather conditions in Varna, which was for the beginning of October, was not usual, but still we were blessed with that. And the last thing we had actually was we had certificates by our mayor with the red arrow there. Our mayor gave us certificates for the voluntarily work with it, which really we felt appreciated about all the hard work with it. Thank you. Thank you.